Here he is. He's overcome more than 770 masters. And on the other side, we have Fredrik. I hope you say it correctly, Mikael. He is playing Wold together with Lycanroc GX. And he's accomplished top 8 in the 2016 Norway Nationals. And also in the Malmö Regionals, he was able to make it to the top 16. So both players looking to get another title under their belt here.
Michael Long, very accomplished senior player moving into Masters. Fredrik, he seems like a bit of a newer player. Most of his achievements, 2016, 2017, and we saw Michael earlier playing Greninja. So we've got the old guard Greninja, a deck that's been hanging around for years, and we've got the new guard Buzzwole, and we're off with a Froakie against a Zygarde.
There's the handshake, so Michael with the Froakie, that's how he wants to start. And on the other hand, Fredrik Wold, we can see the price cam here on the top right corner. There's a Buzzwole, there's a Guzma, also Remoraid, that hurts maybe a little bit for Fredrik. On the left-hand side, a Greninja and another Froakie in the prizes for Michael.
Good news for Fredrik, he does play 2 Remoraid, so he should be okay. And no, this is one of those decks that doesn't necessarily need a turn 1 Bridget like so many of them do. Because you can do such damage so efficiently with these big, bulky, basic fighting Pokemon like Zygarde and Buzzwole, as long as you've got a couple of basics and a couple of energy, although I agree with what you said a minute ago, wouldn't mind a Remoraid, and actually would be quite nice if he could have a Rockruff as well.
Yeah, it's a little bit tough here because he has an Octillery in hand, and also Professor Sycamore decides against playing the Professor Sycamore, maybe because there's an Octillery and also another strong energy, so just pass it on to Michael. And there's some pressure on Michael because he has to find himself another basic Pokemon, and he has an Ultra Ball, so he's safe for now.
He is safe for now. Do we know why Fredrik's got 2 energy on the field?
Yeah, he played a Max Elixir there. And
he did play a Max Elixir. How silly of me, sorry. And of course he hit that, which is very nice. And he's building up those attacks. Michael, turn 1. You don't do much turn 1 when you're Greninja, to be perfectly honest with you. All you do when you're playing a Greninja deck, really, you want 2 Froakie on the field, maybe a Staryu, and then you want a Frogadier and an energy in hand. That's all you need, that's all you're after. It's turn 2 for these Greninja decks, which is so big. Now, if he doesn't get a second Froakie, that Zygarde can get a KO with strong energy and a Stadium.
Yeah, exactly, and he's eyeing out that second Froakie immediately. Michael knows exactly what he has to do, but at the same time he's looking through his deck just to make sure he understands what kind of cards are in the prize cards, and also he has to think about the second turn, which is the most important one for the Greninja player. He has another Frogadier in hand, so he was able to discard one with the Ultra Ball, and he's preparing himself for the water duplicates next turn.
And that is what you need to do. Although a quick correction, of course, Zygarde has a 2 energy attack that does 60 damage. I'm too used to seeing Buzzwole that only have 1 or 3 energy attacks. I mean, discarding that Frogadier, it's not ideal. Really, turn 2 as a Greninja player, you want 4 Frogadier on your bench. That is the ultimate goal of every Greninja player on turn 2. But it's not a very inspiring board. You look at it, and it doesn't really do much, but he's got 2 Froakie.
Yeah, he has 2 Froakie, and also now we get a glimpse at the Professor Sycamore, so Michael is going to be able to follow it up with a Frogadier, another Water Energy, and a Professor Sycamore, so Michael is looking good for now, at least very well prepared for the second turn. And here's the second energy you were mentioned for the Zygarde, and now finally Fredrik decides, okay, I have to pass on this Octillery, and he's discarding it with Professor Sycamore.
And I like this play. He didn't need it last turn. He doesn't need a Lycanroc to pull a Pokemon off the bench this turn. He knew that Michael was only going to have Froakies, so he could have waited. He didn't need to get set up. All he needed on his first turn was a couple of energy, which he got. Now he's got the Rockruff down. He's not had to discard a strong energy, and he really is rolling. He's got the Brooklet Hill, which means that every turn he's going to be able to search for a basic water or fighting Pokemon. Although, if you're Michael, that's a Stadium you do not mind having in play.
Yeah, I like that Fredrik is eyeing out the Remoraid because he's going to go up in prizes very soon. So he's going to pick up that KO on the Froakie. He's also going to pick up a KO on the Frogadier that is going to follow. So he's getting
basic Pokemon focused decks. You can sometimes just go very hard, very fast, take 2 or 3 prizes and have 40 cards left in your deck. Your opponent ends you to 3 when you've got a 35-40 card deck. You are not likely to draw very much from that.
Duplicates for 2 more Frogadier.
Yep, we've seen his prizes. We know that there are no Frogadier prized. We do know that he has discarded one, so we know he's getting 2 here. This isn't bad. For Fredrik here, he needs a strong energy. Strong energy means Cellstorm for 80, and he's already got it in hand, so he is definitely taking another prize this turn.
Yeah, the strong energy here is very to have free energy in the next turn. Whenever Michael is going to evolve something into a Greninja, that features 130 hit points. Lands raw for like
Ready to roll with his Buzzwole.
Yeah, for Michael, this match really doesn't begin until turn 4, so until he finds that Greninja break, because then he can finally, withstand.
By getting rid of that strong energy, if he gets rid of that strong energy, there will be no KO on a Greninja next turn.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And for Fredrik, he also found that Octillery that is so important. If he goes up in the prize race, that Octillery will make sure that Ents won't hurt him as much.
And he hit a Max Elixir there, and I was totally paying attention. I saw this one. He hit a second Max Elixir. So now, even though an Enhanced Hammer has been played, he's still got more energy than he's had turns. Max Elixir, such a powerful card in a deck like this. And when you're only playing 9 fighting energy, being able to hit 2 out of 2 Max Elixir, very, very good going.
Yeah, look at that Buzzwole there. That's very threatening, because the attack will deal 160 or even 170 damage together with that Regirock, and that's a one-hit KO even on the Greninja break.
That is lovely. And that's the other thing, the little subplot here. Let's say that Michael does have an Enhanced Hammer to get rid of the strong energy. Well, Buzzwole can, with 1 more energy, do 160. That's enough. You've said yourself, Regirock goes up to 170. Fredrik wants to be KOing with Zygarde here. Zygarde can't really KO a Greninja break, so Zygarde does the early work. Buzzwole comes in later. Of course, Buzzwole hits the bench as well, but starting with Zygarde like he is, I think Fredrik is playing this absolutely the way he should.
I think this is the perfect start. We could not have scripted this any better, and at the same time Michael is really, really working hard on making that comeback work. Of course, we know that Greninja is not going to attack earlier than the 3rd turn here, and this is Michael's 3rd turn. We know he has a Professor Sycamore on hand. He's using that Brooklet Hill for a Stario here, and it's going to follow it up with a big Professor Sycamore and hopefully getting access, make that an N, getting access to a Greninja and some energy.
That's what he needs. A Greninja energy here would be quite good. Of course, he has always got the Shadow Stitching attack, which would allow him to turn off abilities. Regirock doesn't do an extra 10 damage. Octillery cannot draw until you've got 5 cards in your hand. Lycanroc cannot pull a Pokemon off the bench to KO them. Thing is, Shadow Stitching doesn't do very much damage. Shadow Stitching does 40. And when Shadow Stitching's doing 40 and Cellstorm's doing 80... because you wouldn't count the Regirock in that situation. Oh, but there we see the Enhanced Hammer. He's hit both the Enhanced Hammer in the first 3 turns, and that's huge for Michael here, because if he hadn't, Fredrik would already have free energy on a Zygarde, and next turn he would just have so many options.
Unfortunately, that's all there is. Michael's turn has ended. He would have loved to see 2 Greninjas. However, there's only 2 Frogadiers left. And Zygarde, together with the Sailstorm and Regirock's ability, is going to pick up the KO on Frogadier. Michael only has 1 Frogadier on his bench left.
And Fredrik cannot stop hitting Max Elixir. You're not really supposed to hit more than about 2 out of 4 if you're playing 4 Max Elixir and 9 fighting energy. You're supposed to be playing 12 energy to hit 3 out of 4. That's the general maths we do on the Max Elixir. He's hit 3 of them, and I love the decision there. I don't need a 3rd energy on Buzzwole. I can put a 3rd energy on Buzzwole whenever I feel like it. I'm going to start building up another one. These fighting decks need a variety of attackers for if they do get KO'd, and he's just managing this game so well. And then we see a Soulstorm for 90.
Yeah, and Michael was hoping
70, sorry.
to just place 6 damage counters on the Frogadier because he forgot about the Regirock. Now he realizes he has to give up on the Frogadier. We know there was another one that he discarded. So for Michael to come back here, it's going to be an uphill battle.
It's getting to that stage in the game. We're like 10 minutes in. This is not far into the game at all. And it's already getting to the stage where Michael must be thinking about game 2. This happens sometimes. You go second, you have a slow start, your opponent has a storming beginning to the game, and you're just in a position where you can't win. Michael's hit both of his Enhanced Hammers early game. They were great. They were absolutely crucial. And yet, Fredrik's up by 3 prizes. Michael's board, and this is what's more worrying. Michael's board is a Staryu, a Froakie, and a Frogadier. That's it. That's all he's got on the board. Now, he does have an Ultra Ball and a Water Energy. He can get a Greninja here. Is it going to be enough?
I don't see it happening. I mean, he has an Ultra Ball and he can find finally a Greninja, and then he has to hope that that Greninja is safe until he can evolve it into a Greninja break. But then at the same time, any Guzma coming from Fredrik would promote a Buzzwole GX, and that can pick up the KO even on a Greninja break. At this point, I don't know how Michael can fight back.
And I'm looking at Fredrik's hand there. I can see he's got a strong energy in hand. Strong energy means that Landsrath will do 130 and get a KO. So I think Michael, if he wants to prevent the KO, he's got to use Shadow Stitching here. Shadow Stitching will turn off Regirock's ability, which means that he then won't be able to get a KO. Landsrath will just do 120 when Regirock loses his ability, and Fredrik's playing Choice Band. He's not playing Fighting Fury Belt. But, he's
And
not.
you're right. That
Yes.
is the Shadow Stitching together with the Choice Band, so 7 damage counters on the Zygarde, and abilities are off for Fredrik.
And that's kind of big. That gives Michael a turn. Unless Fredrik can get the Zygarde out of the active. So now the strong energy goes down onto a Buzzwole. Buzzwole's hitting 180 at this stage. Does he have any kind of Floatstone? He plays 3 of them. Does he have any kind of Guzma? He plays 4 of them. He's got 7 ways to get it out of the active. None of them are in the prizes, so you've got to think he's got an option. Now, he is going to play an Ultra Ball here, but there is no bench space for a Tapu Lele. That is not an option. The other thing he could do here is just pull up that Staryu and take a cheeky prize on the 40 HP Staryu, or even the 60 HP Froakie using Cellstorm for 60.
Yeah, and here he goes for the Ultra Ball. He's also thinning out his hand size here. He always has Abyssal Hand. No, sorry, it's not on this turn, so he can't use Abyssal Hand this turn. So he uses the Ultra Ball. He can now see how many Floatstones are in there, how many Guzmas are in there. I only saw 1 Floatstone in his discard pile, so I believe there should be 2 left in the deck.
That is a lot for him. And of course, I should mention, he won't be using Lycanroc to pull something off the bench because of the Shadow Stitching. Shadow Stitching is such a good attack, turning off all of your opponent's abilities. It really is so... I mean, especially against a deck like Fredrik's, where you've got the Buzzwole, actually you've got the Regirock, and you've got the Octillery, and you've got the Lycanroc. You think of the Buzzwole attacking, Buzzwole doesn't have any abilities.
He just draw because of the Abyssal Hand. He's not allowed to do it.
He's not allowed to do that.
He drew into the Guzma, but he's not allowed to draw.
And the rules are quite clear. We had an update on the rules on, I think it was the 2nd of November. Earlier this month, we had an update on the rules which very clearly stated if you draw a card by mistake, it gets shuffled into the deck. It used to be reveal and put on the top. Now it's a reveal and shuffle, and you take a prize penalty. So Michael should be given a prize for this. Unfortunately, the rules are clear, and Michael has now taken a prize. We've got certainty. The rule was re-clarified, as it were. There's no option for the judges. It's what they have to do.
Yeah, Ross, sometimes I feel so stupid for always suggesting to use Abyssal Hand when there's a Shadow Stitching because I always forget about it. The players are just as human. So Michael was able to get the prize penalty. It was a Super Rod. Maybe it will enable him to get some more Frogadier, maybe some other resources back into the deck.
It's nice. It's a good card. It's nice to get a card for free. It's certainly nice to be able to, get those Pokemon back. Now, Fredrik does play an N, and this is a cheeky little subplot that sometimes happens, because Michael did take a prize there, but Fredrik would be ending him to 6, except he took a prize, so now Fredrik's ending him to 5, and...
Totally on purpose.
I had a friend of mine once went to a tournament and he was given a free prize card penalty. He ended his opponent down to 3. His opponent drew nothing for the whole game and lost.
And that's the Floatstone, 2 of them even.
Oh, that is absolutely huge. That is the only thing he needed. Now Buzzwole can get the KO, and Michael has got to be thinking at this stage, I don't think this game is going right for me.
No, only 60 minutes here on the clock. What do you mean by only? Of course, 60 minutes left on the clock. There's plenty of time, but I don't think there's anything left for Michael to do in this game.
And I really, really like what Fredrik did there. He used an Absorption GX, which would basically do 140, 40 for each prize card that you've got remaining, which at the time was free, that's 120, plus the strong energy was 140, doesn't do as much damage as Knuckle Impact, but Knuckle Impact says you can't attack next turn. So using Absorption this turn gets a KO, it wouldn't next turn, so that he can then Knuckle Impact to get another KO this turn. That was such a lovely, subtle little play from Fredrik.
Yeah, I would have certainly used the Knuckle Impact there. But there we go, Michael now with a Frogadier left on the field. He has a couple Finny GX potentially to buy himself some time, but he knows that he will also give away 2 prize cards. So if Fredrik is somehow able to knock this one out, this game number 1 is finished.
He would be able to. Now, at the moment, essentially, Michael's thinking, if I use Tapu Storm GX, I can get rid of this Buzzwole. I'm not knocking it out. I'm not taking a prize, but I am getting it off the field. And that might be enough. You just shuffle it into your opponent's deck, so they've got to get it. And it's not easy. I mean, that was 2 max elixirs and a strong energy it took to get that Buzzwole rolling. And I think at this stage, Michael's saying, you know what? This will buy me time. Of course, Fredrik might be thinking, cool, I'll hit the Tapu Fini for 100, then I'll Guzma it and hit it for another 100, and then I'll win the game.
Yeah, let's see if that will actually be useful for Michael whatsoever. It will buy him some time to finally get a Greninja out that will do something more than just for 1 turn. But at the same time, Fredrik has options on the bench. I mean, even if that Buzzwole is shuffled back into the deck, there's another Buzzwole and there's another Zygarde. I don't see how Michael is coming back here.
Well, I'm looking at Michael's side of the field here, and it's... If he had a Greninja, so if he gets a Greninja this turn, what I'm thinking is Tapu Storm to get rid of the Buzzwole. Then next turn he can drop 6 damage counters onto the Zygarde using Giant Water Shuriken, put him up to 130. Then he can use a Moonlight Slash and actually get the KO on the Zygarde. And then Fredrik is running out of options, but then at that stage he'll already have 2 energy on a new Buzzwole, so he puts a strong energy on KOs and it's, back to square one for Michael at that stage. So Michael has got options to get rid of both of these attackers, but Fredrik's just got such a good board state.
Yeah, there's a rescue stretcher here, and he decides to go for the option to shuffle 3 Pokemon back into the deck instead of taking one of them, and he goes for a full Greninja line.
I think that's probably the right play here. He just needs to get Greninja set up. Greninja is the ultimate, if I get set up, I win card. It's such a good deck when you're set up, when you're doing Giant Water Shuriken for 60, and then retreating and doing Giant Water Shuriken for 60, and then doing Shadow Stitching for 40 or 70 with a Choice Band, while turning off your opponent's abilities, it's so much fun. While you're getting all of your low HP Pokemon KO'd while you can't set up, I would say it's maybe the opposite.
Yeah, and the Brocklet Hill followed up by that rescue searcher, made sure that the Froakie immediately hit the bench. Michael making sure to know exactly what is in Fredrik's discard pile before he uses that Tapu Storm GX. Hasn't used his GX attack yet.
You've got to think that's what's coming. You've got to think this is a Tapu Storm. Because that Buzzwole is currently hitting 180 with Knuckle Impact. That's enough to KO Tapu Fini and win the game with a Guzma, even if Michael were to retreat it. It's enough to KO a Greninja Break, which is supposed to be 170 HP single prize Pokemon that can't be KO'd. Oh, I do like there. We get rid of the Brooklet Hill. We get rid of the Floatstone. Of course, there's no point shuffling Buzzwole back into the deck. Oh, he actually puts down his own Brooklet Hill. So Fredrik will be able to search out the Buzzwole straight away. And, I think for Fredrik here, the plan is probably... I don't know. To be honest, it might be worth just bringing up the Buzzwole, doing a Jet Punch, and then next turn you can Guzma and Knuckle Impact the Tapu Fini for the win. I think that's where I'd go, because if you commit the third energy to Zygarde, you can do 100 damage, but then it's going to be knocked out and you've only got 1 energy on the Buzzwole. I think I'd rather go second energy on the Buzzwole here, Jet Punch, and then you've got 2 Pokemon that are 1 energy away from attacking.
Yeah, good news for Fredrik is he knows he has a Floatstone in hand, so he can safely promote that Regirock EX, attach the Floatstone, and now first make sure to get as much information as he can through the Abyssal Hand, maybe even using the Professor Sycamore before he decides which Pokemon to promote, and he also has a strong energy to invest.
He's thinking here, and I think he's thinking... Now, Greninja usually only play 2 Enhanced Hammer, But what if he's playing more? I know he's only used 2, but I need this energy attachment to stick here. I need to have 2 Pokemon with 2 energy on each. Oh, that's such a nice Guzma there.
That has to seal it. I mean, now we see a Sailstorm. Zygarde is recovering. Zygarde is picking up the KO. He's going down to 1 prize card. And the only Pokemon that is left to evolve into a Greninja at some point is a Froakie.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking about going after the Frogadier at that point. It seemed like KOing the Tapu Fini was just too good an option, but nope. He went after the Frogadier with that Guzma, and now you've got to be thinking the game's basically over at this stage because he's got 2 Pokemon with 2 energy on each. Sooner or later, I mean, if Michael even brings a Greninja into the active, energy on Buzzwole wins the game.
Oh, 1 second. How was he able to evolve into Greninja immediately? Yeah, okay, just checking. The Evo Soda on the Frogadier is all good and nice, but the rest is too much.
Evo Soda's a good card. It's not that good.
No, it's not. But I mean, you have to give it to Michael. He's shown the fighting spirit here, and he tries to do everything to come back here. And if there's a way, he would find it, but we just don't see it.
And I love the veteran play from Michael. He might be recently aged up into Masters, but that was a very veteran play. Michael knows he's lost this game, but what did he do? He picked up Fredrik's discard and had a look. If you're going to lose game 1, lose it with information. Know what your opponent is playing. So he's looking through. He probably just thought, right, couple of cards, I want to know how many he's playing. That will then give him information with which he can make decisions in game 2.
Yeah, that's a very good point there. And when it comes to information, of course, that also works for Fredrik, right? So the longer the game goes, the more information also Fredrik will gain. And then it really comes down to who is the better player, who can do more with the information available to him.
And I think at this stage, the one information, if I was Fredrik, the one piece of information I'd be desperate to know is, yeah, but it's only 2 Enhanced Hammer, right? Those strong energy are so good, and losing them can really put you back. And you need to know how many your opponent is playing. He's only seen 2. He's got a strong energy on the board. Michael hasn't played a third. His deck is getting very low at this point. And 2 is that if you play Enhanced Hammer in Greninja, it's not an every single person ever in the history of the world since Enhanced Hammer was released, but it's pretty much always 2 in Greninja.
Oh, that's it.
Lycanroc, and there we see Fredrik takes game 1. And he just ignored that Tapu Fini. He didn't care. He just started knocking out the frogs.
Yeah, he went for that Professor Sycamore. He drew into the Lycanroc GX, thought for a while and says, well, I think I got this one. And he just promotes one of the Pokemon, in this case the Frogadier. They really had to take a couple of hits in this case. And Michael is down 0-1, but he's used to that on stream. He lost to the Raichu Heatmore deck before, and then he came back stronger.
He did very well. Remembered he did. He lost game 1. He came back and won games 2 and 3. He's really must have got a feel for Fredrik's deck at this stage. Of course, Buzzwole, Lycanroc, we have seen this on the stream before. These lists tend to be quite similar. And essentially here, it's just about getting set up. Fredrik's deck there did what Fredrik's deck does. It took early prizes. It went, and Michael's didn't. Michael will get to go first here, which is good, but if Fredrik gets a decent start, I still expect him to go up by 2 prizes. He can hit 60 on turn 1, 70 on turn 2. And that is a Froakie KO on turn 1 and a Frogadier KO on turn 2. That doesn't mean that Michael can't win the game, but it removes his room for error. If you're going down by 2 prizes in the best case scenario, you cannot have a worst case scenario. He took 1 prize that game, and that was the prize penalty. And it was purely because he just could not get his Greninjas into play.
No, and at the same time, of course, Michael is thinking about all the ways that he could do better in this game. But at the same time, he always has to be afraid. It is a Greninja deck after all. He always has to be afraid. If I'm only starting Froakie, if I don't find myself a second basic Pokemon, that could mean Fredrik, with all the power that he has, there's a Zygarde, he could play a Stadium card, he can attach strong energy, and the game could be over in just a couple of seconds. So for Michael, of course, the first couple of turns are always survival mode.
And you really have hit the nail on the head there. He needs double Froakie. He cannot pass the turn with 1 basic Pokemon in play. Now, that did look like a mulligan. I don't think he's got any Pokemon in that hand. But he needs double. He cannot pass the turn with 1 Froakie in play.
No, and there's a mulligan, and Fredrik has found himself a basic Pokemon, while we can also see his prize cards, and there's one of the Zygarde EX, which makes it a little bit less likely. No, never mind, there's only one Zygarde EX in the deck for Fredrik, so that's good news for Michael. It can't be the one that's in the active spot right now.
That is good for him. It's much easier for Zygarde. Zygarde needs a Stadium and a Strong Energy to do 60 on turn 1. Boswell can do 60 on turn 1, but you need Strong Energy and a Regirock. Now, the Regirock isn't prized, but Fredrik only plays one of them. Now, if he started Buzzwole, then Brooklet Hill Strong Energy. But then the combo gets more and more annoying at that stage.
And there we go. I can imagine that Michael decided to go first. There's a Brooklet Hill and also a Froakie and another Ultra Ball in the prizes. He has a Stario active. Does he have something to search for a basic Pokemon? Please, Michael, come on.
Hopefully, or else this could be a short game. Of course, Fredrik, I'm willing to bet that is the worst starter in his deck. It's not a good attacker, and I believe the retreat cost is 2, if I remember correctly. So it's not easy to get out the active, and it doesn't have a single energy attack. That is, of course, the 50% Zygarde form. I should have turned that into a question, really, shouldn't I, Julian? See if you could remember.
The Rumble and Zygarde.
Rumble and Geostrike. So
this was the one that used to win the pre-releases.
It was so good in pre-releases. It really, really was. Because you got to Rumble, and then free energy doing 120 in a pre-release. That's amazing.
Not even EX at the time.
Now, the good news for Michael is he's got himself a Tapu Fini. That's not great.
And a Froakie.
Oh, now that is good. I was going to say, it means he will be able to, still have Pokemon the following turn. But if you don't have a Froakie turn 1, you can't have a Frogadier turn 2. So Fredrik here, he needs Boswell, Strong Energy, and he needs Regirock. But a Brooklet Hill will do the same thing.
Fredrik is contemplating. I'm not sure if it's already Fredrik's turn because Michael is kind of leaning back there, so I'm not really sure if he's past it. Yeah, it's still Michael.
Because leaving the 40 HP Brooklet Hill, he's got Strong Energy, he's got Floatstone.
And the Guzma even.
He has. Problem is, he doesn't have Lycanroc. If he had a Boswell start here, this would be amazing next turn. So he might as well go after the Staryu this turn and get I say he's going to, if he's able to draw into another Strong Energy. Yeah, I think Staryu's got to be the right call here, because you get a prize. You're still doing 30 to the Froakie. You're not knocking it out.
And he needs the prize card too, because now look at, he got the Strong Energy. Right next to it there was a Professor Sigma. He needed the prize card because he needs access to more cards. He doesn't have a supporter to follow it up on the next turn, so he's, kind of forced to top deck.
Not the Strong Energy, and even if Michael drops Ninja to the bench, Fredrik now, he needs more Buzzwole, and he needs to start hitting some Max Elixir. He did get pretty lucky on the Max Elixirs in the previous game. If he can do that again, set up some multiple attackers, I think he could be on a route to victory here. It's very early, but I told you I expect Fredrik to go up by 2 prizes.
3 Frogadiers hitting the bench here.
Michael probably is not able to get the Frogadier out of the discard.
EX or a Buzzwole, but EX. So while he's spreading damage, he could decide, maybe I want to target a different Pokemon and pick up the KO there, because he also has another Strong Energy in hand.
Apparently, Fredrik is content to just take the KO and save that Lycanroc for later in the game when it might be more useful for, or else it's going to be in range of that job. Big Professor Sycamore here from Michael. He's after Greninja and Energy. What's new?
Also the enhanced ammo here, that is going to buy him.
He's here. He might want to go for the Ace. That's not the case here. There's no Octillery on the board. There is Lycanroc which could come into play, but there's a good chance Michael here is going to leave off the ability lock for now and just go for the damage, assuming he's got an Energy, which I'm not convinced he actually doesn't have it. That's going to be bad news bears.
Nope. And there's also no Starmie, it looks like, so only potential would be Aqua Ring or Tapu Storm here from Tapu Fini GX. It becomes active.
I don't think you Tapu Storm here. Tapu Storm damage. I don't mind this play. He's not got much he can do. And and I love what he's doing here. He got the Strong Energy on Buzzwole. Jet Punch will nothing. If he puts another 30 on that French Frogadier, Michael either evolves it, and it's Greninja that's only got 70 HP remaining. That's not good. Or he doesn't evolve it, and another Jet Punch will KO it when it's on the bench. And that's not good.
Yeah, and I think also you noticed that there was a Remoraid, I believe, in the discarded hand there in Fredrik's discard pile. Well, he's anticipating that Greninja break and the ability to maybe pull off an immediate KO on the bench here, so he doesn't even bother putting it on the bench.
And that's a very good point. Remoraid, not unlike Rockruff, has 60 HP, which means a single giant water shuriken, and Remoraid's back to the discard pile. Discarded, not needed anymore, not wanted, not needed. A great Pokemon, but you cannot put him in that level of danger, especially when you're playing a deck. You really want to force Greninja to work for the KOs. Okay, here's 190 HP Buzzwole, see if you can knock it out. Not, hey, would you like a free prize?
Yeah, Fredrik is a good trainer. He's not going to risk Remoraid here just that easily. And there we go. There's a Jet Punch debating on where to put that additional damage, and he decides to go with the already damaged Frogadier on the bench.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one I mentioned earlier, because it just forces Michael into a really horrible position. If it's a Greninja, brilliant. It's a 70 HP Greninja, effectively. He can KO that. And if he doesn't KO it, next turn Jet Punch KOs it when it's on the bench. So Fredrik, he's doing what Buzzwole decks do. He's spreading damage around the field. It's very difficult for him, unless he gets free energy on a Buzzwole, or I suppose a Zygarde, it's very difficult to KO a Greninja.
Talk about difficult decision for Michael. He is debating. Yeah, he does indeed discard one of the Greninja breaks here, probably in favor of either a Starmie or another Greninja. I would imagine he would go for another Greninja here, and there's another Greninja break in his hand, if I saw correctly, for the active one.
And I think that's got to be the thing to do here. I mean, he's got to evolve the bench Pokemon. Like I say, he's putting Michael in an awkward position. Michael doesn't want to evolve that Frogadier. He wants to evolve a nice, undamaged Frogadier so he can bring in 130 HP Greninja and go, right, good luck. Now he's got a 60 damage Greninja on the bench before he's even tried using it. Fredrik is doing well here. The problem is we're getting towards that stage of the game where prizes are harder to come by. There's 2 damaged Greninja. Where does Fredrik go after that?
There we go, attaching a water energy to the Greninja. He switched it out. The only difference between the Greninja that is now active is the active Greninja has a Froakie underneath. The other one was a water duplicate Frogadier. So he figures this is the one that I want to be knocked out first. And it looks like he's going for the Moonlight Slash.
He is. He's got his hand there ready to take that energy back, which means Moonlight Slash for 80 damage. And next turn, couple of giant water shurikens will KO before he even gets an attack off. So if he can get a double Greninja break and 2 energy in hand, he can get a mid-turn KO on a Buzzwole, and then prizes will be even. And it looks like in this game, we might be seeing Greninja doing what Greninja does.
It's not too often that we see this on stream in this case, but Fredrik now investing the 3rd energy now. Knuckle, Impact and Absorption GX is an option for him, while he's looking for Brooklet Hill and another Buzzwole on the bench now free in play.
And I like this. Buzzwole's a great attacker in this matchup. I think like in the previous game, we'd probably see an Absorption here. They both get the KO. It's likely that Buzzwole gets KO'd the following turn, but he's not going to have a free energy attack in the near future, which means by the time he gets back round to it, Absorption probably won't do enough damage to get the KO. So I've got to think it's an Absorption here, so that if Michael doesn't get a KO on Buzzwole, Knuckle Impact will be an option.
Yeah, there are various different GX attacks, and then finally there are some max elixirs. We were waiting for these all game long, and this GX attack actually gets weaker the more Fredrik draws prize cards, so he wants to make sure to use this early in the game.
And I love that he hit the max elixir. Now, it's a lot to ask, but if he hits both the max elixir, then he's not getting free energy on a Buzzwole anytime soon, just becomes a completely moot point, because then he really is very close. No, he is going to play the other max elixir.
This is a huge one. Oh, and he hits it again.
He is really doing well off these max elixir.
Oh, Michael's micro reaction there is, oh no, I was about to get rid of one Buzzwole, there's the next one already coming up.
It's like Fred is going like, look, I heard you were going to miss Buzzwole, so I've got you another one, so you won't be sad.
No, you won't be sad, Michael. Fredrik got you covered.
Oh, that's got to be disheartening. It's so difficult. So much investment goes into knocking out a Buzzwole, and right as you're about to do it, Fredrik's like, double max elixir. Now I've got a new Buzzwole.
Well, at these stakes, when your player and your opponent is so good, and the differences are so marginal, it sometimes comes down to luck. We're here in the top 8 of the largest European event we've ever had. Both players are playing brilliantly. And for Fredrik, well, this is just lucky that he hit all of the max elixirs so far.
But it looks like he used a knuckle impact that turn, not an absorption, which is pretty big, because absorption now does 120, maybe 140 with a strong energy. That won't KO a Greninja break. Right now, knuckle impact does 180, does get a KO. Absorption does 140, doesn't get a KO. But he just used knuckle impact, which means he can't attack during the next turn. If he's got a float stone strong energy, he can bring up a new Buzzwole, but I must confess, I am surprised he didn't use absorption that turn.
Yeah, and it could be really big. Now, Buzzwole has 2 retreat costs here, but Fredrik does not have Octillery this time. So that means that with a full bench there, no Remoraid, Fredrik is end down to 3, and it's only getting worse from here. If he picks up more prize cards, he's going to be even more vulnerable. So it really depends on what Michael can do. Is he going to pick up the KO even on the Buzzwole GX already? And that, in that case, Fredrik would have to find himself another energy for the Buzzwole GX on the bench to become active.
Well, he does actually have a max elixir in hand, and as we see,
again,
he is really good at hitting max elixirs.
Oh, that's what he does. And we see a splash energy, and there's also another energy for Michael in the hand, so he could use that giant water shuriken. He could get the KO if he wants to.
And, yeah, I mean, you've got to think he's going to.
There we go.
And here's a weird thing. Fredrik didn't go for the Octillery because he went, well, if I go for the Octillery, he's just going to Shadow Stitch so I can't use it. But now Michael's going, oh, no Octillery, I'll use Moonlight Slash and do a lot more damage. I think maybe if this does go to a game 3, Fredrik might go for an Octillery, knowing it's not going to see any play, just to force Michael into using Shadow Stitching, which does less damage.
Yeah, so Fredrik got everything that he needed. In this case was a lone fighting energy. He also gets some max elixir. Let's see if he hits it again. Strong energy is not going to cut it. The first time that he misses it. The good news for him though is there's another basic energy in hand, so that Buzzwole, if it wants to use the knuckle impact, it could pick up the KO on the Greninja break.
Because there is a Regirock, and because there is no Shadow Stitching, then he would do exactly 170 and he will get the KO. So this is good. I like this an awful lot. Turns out not using absorption made absolutely no difference, and right now he gets that third energy on there, and I don't believe it's going to be possible for Michael to get a KO on this next turn. To get a KO on a Buzzwole, he needs 2 Giant Water Shuriken and a Moonlight Slash. But there's only 1 Greninja on the field, which means there can only be 1 Greninja break next turn, which means a maximum of 140 damage. Not bad for a single prize non-GX, but that means that Buzzwole's going to have an option next turn.
Yeah, there's the N coming down. Also a choice band to the Buzzwole GX. The choice band could come in handy later on, maybe on the Tapu Fini, where at the same time Tapu Fini with the energy attached to it could make use of that Tapu Storm now that that Buzzwole is finally powered up, a free energy. So it might be picking up the KO on Greninja, but it will be a very, very costly investment.
But he won't lose the prizes. He loses the energy. He loses, like you said, he loses the investment. And now we saw Michael did it last turn. It didn't really work out. But then again, Fredrik's used at least 3 max elixir this game. So it's not like he's going to be able to double max elixir like he has in the past. So Michael is not just getting rid of the Buzzwole here, and you've got to believe it's going to be a Tapu Storm. He's actually getting rid of all of Fredrik's energy, and I think at this stage, Fredrik might be considering putting down a Remoraid, because if you put down a Remoraid, either... Oh, no, because I'm thinking Greninja goes active, then he uses Giant Water Shuriken and retreats into the Tapu Fini. So actually, no, Michael could have got the KO and Tapu Stormed. Michael's in a much better position this game.
Yeah, now we see the Absorption GX. Now the GX counter is flipped, and the Greninja break, of course, came back to its trainer Michael in this case because of the splash energy and another Greninja now on the bench. Michael finally has the chain of Greninja break going. It really depends on, does he have enough energy to make use of those giant water shurikens and of course also the attacks.
And now, the energy, it would be nice to Giant Water Shuriken this turn. He doesn't need to. He's got the energy on the Tapu Fini. That's the absolutely crucial thing here. Now, Super Rod, brilliant thing here. He can get his Greninja break back. Oh, 2 Greninja breaks back. Potentially energy, depending on how much is left in his deck. Energy could be a good call at this stage, just because he needs energy for those giant water shurikens. If he can get 60 on something like, anything to be honest, then next turn he can go giant water shuriken, moonlight slash, and then he'll be down to 2 prizes remaining. But if they're 2 prizes each, Michael would be in a better board position. I would like to see something like a Froakie coming down, just to give him an option to maybe get another Greninja in the near future. One downside for Fredrik here, having used Absorption GX, he's now not able to use Lycanroc's GX attack, and that would potentially be an option for just 2 energy, 1 Max Elixir and an energy.
And this is exactly the time when it becomes very interesting to watch Greninjas, because this is when they make their comeback. So this is when they use N. This is when they have lots of different Greninjas on the board now. And Fredrik is slowing down as he is not able to really bounce back from those Ns. He does not have Zoroark GX trade-in ability. He doesn't have Octillery active. He's really forced to top deck here.
He is, but I don't know exactly what he's looking for. That Buzzwole's got 80 damage on. His Zygarde is still in his prizes. And what would be completely ideal here would be Max Elixir, Energy, and then next turn he can use Lycanroc's GX attack to win the game. But we saw him use Absorption before. He could have used Knuckle Impact, he chose to use Absorption, and the reason is very simple. He wanted to be able to attack the following turn. But the Tapu Fini here is going to be able to use Tapu Storm, get rid of the Buzzwole, and now that decision to Absorption GX the previous turn could turn out to be very costly, because a Max Elixir Energy, and I know it's a lot to ask for and it's far from guaranteed, but that would allow Fredrik to do 200 damage with Lycanroc and win the game this turn, potentially. Lot to ask for, but possible. That option is gone because of Absorption. So we did see the Tapu Storm now. I don't think anybody's surprised by that. I really like that he attached a second Water Energy, because now Hydro Shot is an option, and Hydro Shot will actually do enough damage to KO the benched Buzzwole.
It's a very interesting spot to be in now. Fredrik, of course, promoting the Regirock with the Float Stone. Michael giving Fredrik's deck a good shuffle here. He draws into a Guzma. He has Fighting Energy and a Octillery, which he can't use. Now let's see how Fredrik is going to play this. Not too many options here.
If I'm Fredrik, I'm just going to Guzma up the Tapu Lele, because it's the only thing on the field with a retreat cost that doesn't have energy on it. And I'm going to put the energy on my on my Buzzwole, and I'm going to hope. I'm going to hope my opponent can't get out the active. It's not exactly a great plan. In fact, I would put it in the fairly bad plan category. But maybe the Tapu Lele gets stuck for a couple of turns. Maybe Fredrik can get free energy on a Buzzwole, and then maybe he can KO the Tapu Lele or the Tapu Fini. I'm not saying this is a great option for Fredrik. I'm just looking at Fredrik's board and going, if you let him use Giant Water Shuriken, he will overrun you in about a turn or two.
Yeah, lots of maybes there.
Yeah. But Michael, there are very few maybes. He can KO the Buzzwole with 1 more energy next turn. He has got Giant Water Shurikens on the board. He is going to win the game fairly quickly. The other thing is, I think, at this stage, that you've probably got to play the Guzma, just because otherwise that Remoraid can be very easily KO'd. You cannot attach a Regirock to a Buzzwole. And
he is picking up the KO on the Staryu instead, together with Regi Power. That's 40 damage coming down from the Buzzwole. Maybe he's hoping to find something out of the prize cards. He has Zygarde and a Ultra Ball left in the prize cards, while he's deciding to go for 30 damage there on the bench Greninja, and he got an Ultra Ball out of his prize cards.
I mean, Zygarde would be quite nice at this stage. It's a good low-energy attacker. Thing is, Michael should be able to KO this Buzzwole this turn. And then Fredrik is once again out of energies. And then I don't really know what he does from there. He doesn't even have a single energy attacker on the board. Now, Michael here doesn't actually need to attack. He just needs 2 energy. Having said that, I really like what Fredrik did, KOing the Staryu, because now the Starmie's not an option. Starmie would be able to get 2 energy from the discard, which then would be able to get 2 Giant Water Shuriken, and would have allowed him to retreat the Tapu Lele. So, I think at this stage, I am really clutching at straws, looking for what Fredrik can do. I think Michael here is so set up, I just don't think he loses a game at this stage. Every option I give you for Fredrik is frankly flawed.
If Michael has enough energy, he could pick up the KO on the Remoraid there with a giant water shuriken, and together with the choice band Greninja break on the bench, he could even pick up another KO on the Buzzwole GX together with the Moonlight Slash here. Let's see what he's going for. So at least he is retreating. Not sure how many energy cards he has in hand, if that is an option at all. There's another choice, and I think I saw 2 water energy, so he could do exactly that. Let's see if he's going for that.
This is going to be a fairly good 2-prize turn, and that's why he retreated before using Giant Water Shuriken. He's only got 2 energies in hand, so it doesn't really matter here. He wasn't going to get 2 Giant Water Shurikens, so why mess about?
There we go. What is he going to do with the last water energy? He could pick up the KO on the Remoraid and then also on the Buzzwole, so he could get 3 prize cards, but he does decide only to go for the 2 prize cards. He can pick up the KO on the Remoraid at any time, he figures, maybe. So there's the KO on the Buzzwole GX. Michael is going down to 2 prize cards. Fredrik with 1 left. No float slow now attached, so he has a very difficult decision here.
I think his main decision is going to be whether to concede or not. Because to be perfectly honest, I think the reason he saved the energy, because if Fredrik puts an EX in the active or a GX in the active, Michael can go Giant Water Shuriken, retreat, Giant Water Shuriken, Moonlight Slash, yay, I win the game. And I don't think it was worth his while taking the KO on the Remoraid. It puts him down to an end to 1 rather than an end to 2. It uses an energy. I think he's going, you know what? I'm saving my energy. If you put an EX or a GX in the active, I'm going to KO it for the win. If you don't, you're not really attacking. I am cool with either of those situations if I'm Michael. So I think at this stage, both players, they know that they're in a top 8 match. They know we've got a 75-minute time limit. Having said that, we are down to under 25 minutes. We are into the final third of the game, but I don't think either player is in a great hurry here. And Michael, I think at this stage has got the game sewn up, but maybe the players are trying to gather information. Maybe the players are trying to see what they can find out for the inevitable, I think, at this stage, Game 3.
Yeah, we see another Max Elixir coming down with lots of basic energy. He chooses one of them and can now attach it to one of his Pokemon. Unfortunately, he didn't find any Float Stones, so that Octillery is stuck there, which means that Michael is free to fire Giant Water Shurikens at any Pokemon on Fredrik's field. And if that Octillery doesn't move, that pretty much seals the deal for Fredrik.
I mean, Fredrik at this stage probably is just going to Shadow Stitch because that doesn't get the KO. And this is one of those strange situations where actually you really want to not get the KO. Oh, you're stuck in the active? Brilliant. I'll just keep attacking your bench while you're doing very little.
There we go. So even Tapu Fini could seal the deal here. It already has 2 energy attached to it. So Fredrik here is looking through his deck if there's any option available to him that would not lose him the game. There is another Guzma. He already played Professor Sycamore, so he can't use it this turn. Just preparing it for next turn maybe. But then I think he's out of options for this turn.
Yep, pretty much. He's not getting that Octillery out of the active. Is he going to try and play the Guzma? He's looking like he's considering it. No, he has passed the turn. Excellent. It is 1 supporter per turn. There goes a 60 on the Tapu Lele.
Boom.
And Tapu Fini hits for 120 on the bench. And it is just as simple as that, ladies and gentlemen. Octillery never leaves the active. We are at 1 game each. And this is my kind of best of 3. We have seen Fredrik's deck winning by doing what Fredrik's deck does. We have seen Michael's deck winning by doing what Michael's deck does, and now it's over to a Game 3.
So you mean we totally had a really regular, fair Pokemon match so far?
I think both the games have been rather one-sided, but this is what this matchup comes down to. If Michael gets a good setup without getting too far behind, and is able to Tapu Storm away a free energy Pokemon early enough in the game, he wins. If he doesn't get set up really well, Fredrik wins. Greninja is become well known around all of the internet forums and the groups and all of that for being a deck which, to put it politely, doesn't always achieve an optimal setup.
That's very kind of you to put it this way. Michael's big sigh of relief just shows how important it is to him. He came all over the way from Canada here, overcame the jet lag, overcome 770 Masters, and now he's so close, advancing to the third day on Sunday, where we will play out the top 4, and when he is still in the hunt of getting the title.
And he's got a very, very good chance. I think Fredrik here needs to focus on spreading energy around. There is such a temptation, and these big fighting decks have pretty much always been my favourite decks in the Pokemon trading card game. I am known amongst my friends for a guy that almost always plays fighting decks. I know the temptation, but you've got to have multiple attackers set up. In both games, especially the previous game, Fredrik was hit by a Tapu Storm, which really, really hurt him. But he's got the Zygarde start, he's got a Remoraid on the bench. This is already looking like a better start than the previous game.
It does, and he also has an Ultra Ball, so there is going to be a supporter if he goes for the Tapu Lele. Looking at the price cards here, Michael has a Froakie Greninja break and a regular Greninja, while Fredrik has to take a Buzzwole out of the calculations here, as it is in the price cards. A Regirock there, an Ultra Ball would imagine to go for a Tapu Lele, attach a Fighting Energy to Zygarde EX, and I was already able to get a glimpse on Michael's hand, so unless Fredrik is going for an N, which it looks like he does, Michael would have had the second basic Pokemon guaranteed by an Ultra Ball, but there we go, there's an N.
Yes, and you see there that there's a lot of body language and reaction here. And you saw Michael, just giving a little nod of the head, but what does that mean? Is that an, okay, you've got an N? Is that a, brilliant, you're using an N, I had a bad hand? Or is that a, I'm going to nod my head, hoping that you read that and don't play the N? When you get to this level of competition, everything needs to be taken into account.
Oh, there's a Staryu, so that is very important. And also a Professor Sycamore, if he chooses to go for it. So there is a second basic Pokemon. That's all Michael needs for now.
Yeah, and like we said, Michael doesn't need much on turn 1. He needs a second basic. Fredrik, however, he's got the Rockruff ready to evolve, that's good. He's got the Remoraid ready to evolve, that's good. He has got the Regirock down early, that's good. He's got an Energy down, which is a basic, which is big because it's not threatened by an Enhanced Hammer. I don't think Fredrik needs anything else. I think this is as close to a perfect turn as you could get. Maybe a Stadium so that he can hit 60 with Lance Pulse. But that's about it. He does, Michael, however, have to discard a Greninja break, bearing in mind one's prized, and a Frogadier in order to use that Sycamore. Not an ideal situation, but he does get the second Froakie. Oh, and a Super Rod as well.
Yeah, just in time here for Michael. He also attached a Splash Energy to the active Froakie. We could see some bubble action here soon.
I mean, I'm thinking we're probably going to see a bubble. Because what else are you going to do? I mean, it's not like Michael needs anything else. And he's like, you know what? I've got a Froakie. I've got an Energy. Might as well bubble. I played Greninja in one tournament. And I won a game by successfully hitting heads on bubble for 7 turns in a row.
And here's Michael's flip. And it is indeed a heads. This could be a huge one for him.
Because there's no Flowstone here. It's got to be a Guzma. And if he doesn't have the Guzma, then he's not getting out the active. And if he doesn't have a Floatstone, he's not getting the Zygarde back in the active. Michael needs turns to set up. Bubble gives him one more turn to set up. As much as we joke about, oh, it's a bubble, he might as well. You know what? There isn't actually much more that would be useful on a Froakie. It's almost the perfect attack on this evolving Froakie.
And there's a Lycanroc. He does not use its ability. He's content with the active Froakie right there where it is. There is the Guzma. Unfortunately, Fredrik used his supporter for the turn already, so that Zygarde is going to be stuck. There's nothing that could help Fredrik in this spot to keep attacking in this turn.
I would have liked to have seen him use Lycanroc's attack if for no other reason than Michael now needs a Frogadier and he gets water duplicates. Had he used Lycanroc's ability to pull up the Froakie on the bench, he would have needed a Frogadier plus the energy. So it would have made things ever so slightly more difficult for Michael. Personally, I would have gone for the ability, But what I like now, Lycanroc's got an energy on, that GX attack is in play for later in the game.
Yeah, that's a good point. There is an Evo Solar, so Michael is guaranteed to have the water duplicates. And let's see what he can accomplish in addition to that. He's checking his deck, trying to understand what the prize cards are. He gets the news that there are quite some Greninjas prized, but the full army of Frogadier is hitting the field right now as he attacks for the water duplicates.
Did he have an energy in hand? Because that's very important given the lack of the Lycanroc ability. See if you can grab a look at his hand in a minute. I would very much like to know. We do get the second energy on Zygarde. Zygarde with a Regirock now is South-Storming for 70. He's got the KO, but you don't want to get one KO before the Greninja's coming in. You want minimum 2 KOs. I don't think it's happening this game, to be perfectly honest, and that really does make it advantage Michael.
Yeah, advantage Michael here with 15 or 14 minutes on the clock. And Fredrik decides N might be the play here. He doesn't exactly know what Michael has in its hand, but he knows that if he knocks out the Frogadier, it's going to be at least a Frogadier and another Froakie. So again, next turn, Michael is almost guaranteed to still have 4 Frogadiers in play.
And honestly, I'm slightly upset about that N, because now I will never know if Michael had that water energy in hand. He has already got the KO on the first Frogadier, but of course Splash Energy gets the Frogadier back right onto the Froakie, and at that stage, he could have 3 Greninjas and a Frogadier next turn if everything goes to plan. Fredrik being 1 prize up when Michael starts bringing out his army of frogs, that is not what you want. That is really not what you want. And Michael here, you can see in his body language, you can see in the confident way he's playing the cards, he is a man who's thinking, okay, this is going quite well.
It is indeed going quite well, and he has an Ultra Ball to find at least 1 Greninja, and there's also an N, another Professor Sycamore. He's hurrying up because he knows time is working a little bit against him, because Greninjas usually take some time to get in the lead when it comes to prizes, and now he slams down that Greninja on the active Frogadier. There's another Greninja break in his hand, but maybe he's going to shuffle it back into the deck using an N to find more Greninjas.
I like this. There is even a Froakie he could bench as well, maybe taking advantage of that Splash Energy. Because Froakie goes down, Splash Energy, you get your Frogadier and your Greninja back, so you get to go, and I like benching the Froakie here. It just means, that Froakie isn't going to be a Greninja for a few turns. But at some point in, 3, 4, 5 turns time, maybe it does become a Greninja. And maybe it's a Greninja that really makes a difference here. The perfect situation for Michael is KO 6 Greninjas. That's not realistic. However, you've KO'd 1 Frogadier, now KO 5 Greninjas. That is an intimidating task. One thing I will say, no space on the bench for Tapu Fini.
Nope, not at all currently. And for Michael, he finds Ultra Balls and a Greninja. That is huge for him, so he could get at least 2 Greninjas additionally into play. Another Enhanced Hammer slowing down Fredrik, so this is almost perfect for him.
It's a very, very nice turn. I was just looking at Fredrik's hand and thinking, right, he's got the strong energy. He can Landsrath for 130 next turn. This is going great. No, he can't. And I think you might see Michael start to use Shadow Stitching here for that exact reason. If he does Shadow Stitching, he cannot get KO'd by Zygarde. But he did. There's a Choice Band on there. Shadow Stitching for 70. Great play. Fredrik's not getting a KO this turn.
Nope, he is not going to get Regi Power activated this way. Even if he found an Octillery, he could not use it. We have to remind him not to risk another prize penalty. He hits a Max Elixir, however, so he can power up his Buzzwole further, which is currently on the bench with another strong energy. But it is going to be very tough for him to pick up the KO on the active Greninja.
And it's really upsetting for Fred. You almost have to just accept that you're going to lose a couple, hope that you get an attack or 2 before you lose them, and then just breathe a sigh of relief when both the Enhanced Hammers have hit the discard.
Yeah, another N coming down. Michael is drawing 6 prize cards, Fredrik 5 here. Fredrik would be happy, I guess, with another Max Elixir here, so he could further invest into his Lycanroc or the Buzzwole GX. He needs to build up something that is going to be able to pick up KOs on Greninja breaks, because they have to be coming out next turn.
I think next turn we could see multiple Greninja breaks if everything goes to plan.
And there's an Octillery just in time.
It is, but I don't see what he hit a Max Elixir and then a switch. It's a lot to ask for. So basically he uses Cell Storm. Now this I like a lot, because he gets to heal 30 damage while he does it. Downside is, it's not just that Michael hits 70, Fredrik heals 30. It's Michael hits 70 and uses a bunch of giant water shurikens. Fredrik heals 30. That's not quite so advantageous.
No, it's not. It's just not checking out in terms of math here. So Michael could pick up, and he also has another field blower here. So Artillery and Regirock, no more float stone. So that again means no more flexibility for Fredrik to move around Pokemon. And here comes the Water Shuriken on the benched Buzzwole GX already. Michael is going strong.
And Fredrik just decides to throw some cards across the table. I mean, I know it's going quite badly, but...
Yeah, you're not doing this to me, Michael. Table flip.
We have all been in that situation. On more than one occasion, I've had a brand new set. Come on, it's about the energy, because these Pokemon, Buzzwole, Zygarde, they don't do that much damage for one energy.
Going for a water duplicate or...
Shadow Stitching.
He goes for the Shadow Stitching, it is, yes. 80 damage, there's no choice band attached to it. So he draws another card, Fredrik. He has a couple of Guzma in hand. But what can he really do? There's a Sycamore. It looks like a big Sycamore here.
Will be a big Sycamore, just like Correction. It was 40 damage. He already had 40 on there. There is no choice band. He retreated other than using Cellstorm to heal 30, which might be a decent choice here, because it would put him out of range of a Moonlight Slash. He's only got the one. Yes, this gets rid of one. Giant Water Shuriken and a Moonlight Slash will next turn. I think we're going to see... Now, again, it's assuming that Michael has the energy. Giant Water Shuriken...
I think there's a choice band attached to the Greninja Break, is there?
There is indeed, which means Moonlight Slash will do 110. Although...
And Shadow Stitching should be able to pick up the KO here as well, because 120 HP plus 70, so I'm not sure what he exactly announced, because it will have some effect here on Fredrik because of the abilities that he has, but we'll see in a minute.
I think we can assume it was a Moonlight... it's not Moonlight Slash, it was a Shadow Stitching. Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth there, Julian. It is almost certainly a Shadow Stitching, turning off abilities there. He misses the Max Elixir, does Fredrik. I would like to have seen him use just the regular Buzzwole attack the previous turn, putting an energy instead of the Zygarde, putting it onto the Lycanroc. Then Lycanroc GX attack this turn would be able to get rid of this Greninja Break. That's the way I personally would have done it. But of course, if he does that, and the Buzzwole doesn't get KO'd, then he's got a Buzzwole in the active that can't attack. So it almost doesn't matter what he does there. Michael's got a way of taking advantage.
Yeah, and now I think this is desperation. I think now Starmie is active. Maybe he's trying to get Starmie stuck in the active for a couple of turns. I believe it has one retreat cost. No, it has one exactly. So it uses the Jet Punch there. Another Evo Soda from Michael. He needs an energy to retreat that Starmie. I think if he used Shadow Stitching, he can't use the Space Beacon, I believe.
It's a little bit of an issue here because he needs a lot of energy. Also, bringing that Starmie into the active means that it's not actually possible for Michael to be able to get off a double Giant Water Shuriken, and that makes a big difference, to be perfectly honest with you. It makes a huge difference.
So he used the Space Beacon here. So Space Beacon was just used, and he recovered 2 water energy and was able to retreat it and use 1 Giant Water Shuriken.
And Giant Water Shuriken, I mean, 1 is better than none. That's absolutely fine, to be perfectly honest with you. It's not bad at all. He's doing damage. Now, of course, Shadow Stitching does read that it's your opponent's abilities which are turned off. So there's no issue with Space Beacon there on the Starmie. It is only your opponent's abilities that are turned off. That kind of makes Shadow Stitching even better, because what you basically do is go, hey, you don't have an abilities, but don't worry about me. I can use all the abilities I like. And now we're seeing this game go just like game 2. Michael is in an overwhelmingly commanding position. Fredrik has no energy on the board, no Buzzwole on the board, no Zygarde on the board, his single energy attackers. Michael, on the other hand, has a Starmie in play, a Greninja Break, a Greninja Break, a Greninja, a Frogadier. What is Fredrik going to do here?
Have we missed anything?
Unfortunately, I believe Fredrik might be the 3rd Norwegian player in a row to be knocked out of the top 8 here. We've only got 1 minute 30 remaining on the clock. And because we're in Top Cut, the rules are different. It is whoever is ahead on prizes after the conclusion of the 3 extra turns, will be announced the winner of this particular game. Good news is Michael is ahead on prizes, and fairly significantly so, even with time being called. If Michael doesn't take the final 2 prizes, he'll still be announced the winner. Oh yeah, but can you see the Tapu Lele on Fredrik's side of the field?
Well, yeah, we've seen this one before, and for Fredrik, I mean, he keeps digging, and, well, only 2 cards left in the deck. There's nothing he can do. He knows it already, of course, and also thanks for clarifying again on the shadow stitching there. So for Michael, everything went perfectly. His setup is amazing. Fredrik just passes. He knows this game and this match is all but over.
Giant Water Shuriken, retreat. Giant Water Shuriken, Tapu Lele gets KO'd, and Michael Long becomes our 3rd player to move into the top 4 tomorrow. Congratulations to Michael Long, coming all the way from Canada, beating out almost 800 Masters to advance into the top 4, and keeping his cool after what was not a very good game 1.
Well, all there is to say, welcome to the International Championships North America. It seems like 1 Canadian, 2 United States, and then, well, we have someone from Finland and someone from Norway, so there